Hello everyone, just a quick word from your friendly editor/husband. For all of you who listen to So I'm Watching This Show and own an Android device, do me a favor. Go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android devices. I use the app and love it. I can search for the podcasts I want to listen to, select them as favorites, and have them all just a click away. Make sure you set So I'm Watching the Show as a favorite so you don't miss any new episodes. Again, the app is Podcast Republic, available on your Android device. Thanks!
Apparently, a bunch of other random countries around the world are trying to jump on the Hollywood train because of the pandemic.
Oh.
By offering incentives.
Like for filming?
Yeah, so we could go to another spaghetti western place.
Ooh, that could be fun, actually. And actually, I saw something earlier too, and I retweeted it because it said, let me find it because the phrasing was the point. It said, gently used programming is having its moment on broadcast TV. Because it's a picture of Swamp Thing and that that CBS All Access show with Stefan from Vampire Diaries, and I just was like, that is hysterical.
Tell me a story.
Tell me a story. That's the one. I couldn't remember the name, but I laughed at gently used.
Yeah. I'm not going to watch it though because it's edited. That show was TVMA.
Well, maybe I think they're going to put it on streaming. Maybe
CBS All Access.
No, I mean they're going to put it on something else.
Okay, we'll see.
Well, maybe if it's streaming, they'll re-edit it or something, or put in the parts they cut.
I refuse to pay for CBS All Access.
No, same. I will not either. I'll pay for HBO Max before I pay for CBS All Access.
Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show.
You sound very unsure of us.
Oh, I'm very sure.
Okay, all right.
I'm tired. I'm tired of being adored. No, that's Mel Brooks. That doesn't work with Christopher Guest.
No, it does not work with Christopher Guest.
Tired of playing the game. Ain't it a crying shame? Yeah. So, lots going on. We're going to be taking a break.
Yes.
For the month of June.
With 2 exceptions.
Yeah, we're still going to do our Midsummer episode because we settled on it last Midsummer and have been unwavering.
That's true. This will be our 3rd Midsummer episode. So
Will has tried to be are you sure you don't want to just go ahead and watch this highly spoiler movie?
Yeah.
We're like, no, we're going to play this dance this tango for several more months.
Well, I have a secret to tell you.
About what?
It's that Will already fucking watched it.
Oh, that's fine.
I was a little peeved.
No, I'm on his side with this. We're taking a long time.
We are taking a long time. I understand.
If it weren't Midsummer and Midsummer weren't one of our things, then I would be whatever. I mean, technically we could have recorded it whenever, but I don't know why I wanted it to be topical. Although, could you imagine if our Midsummer 2020 episode came out and there's no acknowledgement of our break and or quarantine, and we're just kind of
we just filmed it last year and held it this long.
We're from sunny Orlando, Florida,
where we are living life outside with other people.
Yeah, so we're gonna take a break. There's gonna be a couple things, and if something crazy drops, we'll pick it up, or we'll acknowledge it. We're gonna finish doing Penny Dreadful City of Angels. We might do a RuPaul's Drag Race finale recap. I actually think that'll probably be the end of May, but
yeah.
So our current plan is to be back first thing in July 3rd, I think, July 2nd or 3rd.
3rd.
Historically, we've had a cache of bonus episodes for an emergency. Yeah. And we went through all of them, and then the global pandemic hit, and then all of the family drama in the world hit, and it was just I was running kind of ragged.
The world is a lot, y'all, and there's not enough easily, quickly consumed content for us to sustain right this minute.
Well, and I was taking my frustrations out on Scoob and Scoob didn't deserve that.
Scoob did not deserve that. And I think history will be kinder to Scoob than you were in the moment. However, that being said, we figured June was an okay time for us to take a quick break. So we are hoping to build up a cache of episodes and then maybe have a couple of things to talk about already in the can when we get back.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll still be on Twitter, maybe a little bit on Instagram, depends on what we can do. But it also might be real good timing because we are listing our house tomorrow.
Yay.
Very excited.
Well, that is a whole other topic, actually, because once we get a new house, we're going to venture more properly into the world of film, into the world of YouTube.
Correct.
And also, it is my goal to properly start writing the next book.
Yes.
And I'm kind of going to start both at the same time and just see which one sticks. Because I have, at any given moment, I have about 5 ideas that I'm working on in my head. So I'm excited. I have a shipment coming from IKEA because that's how we have to shop in this world.
It sure is.
And so it should be delivered June 2nd. So I'm going to set up my...
Oh, hey, that's like perfect timing, though.
It's one of the reasons
amazing.
why.
Yeah, it's so good.
So I'll finally have my desk.
We're basically, that's what we're looking at right now. We're excited to take a break. We also have been doing this 2 episodes a week plus multiple TV shows for 2.5 years. So... yeah, we just, we felt like we needed a little break, little recharge. We'll maybe be coming at you with some new and interesting stuff. I think we're going to try to maybe like retool the Patreon and, I can't make any promises, but potentially some merch coming out. Also, I know that you guys heard Will say that we're working on a second book and the first one is for sale and you can link there through our website, soimwatching.com. I just had to get that plug out there before we moved on.
So we have the last couple episodes of the month scheduled, and it turns out the one date that we didn't have anything planned for was this episode that you're listening to right now. And then on Sunday, we got the very sad news that legend Fred Willard had passed. Older than I thought.
86?
Yeah.
That's a good life, man.
He looked good, yeah.
It was also blessedly not related to coronavirus.
Yes.
Thank God.
So I was like, do you want to watch Best in Show? Because it had been a while since I'd seen it. I remembered it being good. Yeah, so we watched Best in Show.
I don't know when the first time I ever watched this movie was, but I remember really thinking it was so silly, but also not fully understanding what a mockumentary was at the time. Because this was my first Christopher Guest movie. Because I know that he didn't direct Spinal Tap, but he wrote Spinal Tap and he's in Spinal Tap. But I hadn't seen it at that point. So I knew that these people were actors because I knew who Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy were from Home Alone and Splash, respectively. So I knew that it wasn't real, but it felt so weird to me, having never seen a movie like this, that I didn't fully grasp it the first time I saw it. And it was only upon further repeated viewings that I was like, this is sort of a watermark of comedy. It's such an assortment of people who Christopher Guest works with a lot, which is great. I love when directors carry the same actors along the way. But it also just is it feels like all of them working at the height of their absurdity in such a fun way. Every single person in this is bonkers. And it's just so fun to watch these comedians do their thing.
This is one of the movies that I don't actually remember. Well, I remember where it came from, but I don't remember my first viewing of it. And many movies that I love, I can remember my first viewing. This is 1998 was round about the time I started watching award shows.
So a couple years before this.
Yeah, from MTV all the way up to the Oscars. And this was an Oscar contender in 2000. And I think it was the clip or something. There was something about that, though. It caught our interest. And I very specifically have I have a very vague memory of my mother and my brother. So my guess is we were watching the Oscars or something, thought it was funny. We went to Blockbuster, we rented it, and we liked it. We got it. We had seen Drop Dead Gorgeous by this time, and as a matter of fact, almost probably right in tandem. So we were a little bit more familiar with the concept of the mockumentary. And funny, I guess more so if you know him, but funny trivia tidbit is that my brother weirdly loves dog shows.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. You knew that at one point. Because he always watches the, what's it called? The actual dog show.
Westminster.
The Westminster on after
Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Because remember he had that status that was really funny where it was like every year I have to watch the dog show and explain to Digby why he's not allowed to participate.
Oh, no.
Because puggles aren't a breed. They can't have puggles.
Well, also Digby was fixed.
Sure. So it's twice over. But no,
Doubly
puggles aren't
so.
a recognized. They're like a mule. It's not a recognized breed.
Yeah, interesting. Well, they're not purebred.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will say, okay, so this was not nominated for an Oscar, but it was, I'm sure, in the conversation, and it was nominated for Golden Globe, Best Motion Picture Comedy or Musical,
Mm-hmm.
and it weirdly lost to Almost Famous, which I don't consider a comedy at all.
There's music in it, kind of, so they went with it.
I guess, but still.
We talk a lot about the Wild West, but the Golden Globes are the Wild fucking West.
The Golden Globes are the Wild fucking West. You're correct. Anyway.
But this one's special, and I don't know why. My only real theory is I think it's just, I think it was the timing of everything. I think lightning struck, the gods smiled, like the people whose careers were already in full bloom and the people whose careers were just taking off. And
some who were like on the down swoop a little. Like Michael McKean had a dry spell.
I think the mainstream was just suddenly ready for this very, very dry, strange, hilarious movie. We thought it was funny the whole time. And there are a few points where we kind of like when we were younger, because I mean, in 2000, I was 15 and my brother was 12 or 13. But we watched it and I've seen it many times. Because I remember making my friends watch it and having mixed results with that. Some of them loved it, and some of them were like, what is this?
Right.
And because Tara was weirdly one of the ones who she thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And
it feels like a very similar litmus test for friendship like Drop Dead Gorgeous does. Drop Dead
Gorgeous is more acidic.
That's true. These are all like mostly good-natured people.
Well...
Mostly.
My first point was going to be, it has been a long time since I've seen it. And watching it this time, I was sort of taken aback by how sad it is.
It's very sad. I think that's part of Christopher Guest's whole thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like A Mighty Wind, that's the one that's about like a folk music festival, and For Your Consideration is like about this really indie movie trying to get consideration for the Oscars and stuff, and it's just these
Waiting for Guffman is community theater, and I mean, I tell you, you want to hear a sob story.
Oh my God, it's just these sad people who are focused so intently on this one thing that will never happen and doesn't matter. And it's just because that's the thing about this dog show. It's not even the Westminster Dog Show. It's the Mayflower Dog Show in Philadelphia or some shit.
And it's just to be the Westminster, or do you not?
I don't think so.
I almost like your version better.
Yeah, I think this is meant to be like a second or third tier dog show, and it just it makes it so much sadder.
Because I also didn't know that Eugene Levy wrote the script with Christopher Guest.
Yeah.
It is famous for being largely improvised.
Well, most of his things are.
Yeah. I noticed watching this that they do break some of the rules. Like there are times because the improv is supposed to be yes and there's a handful of times in this where they'll go, no.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that you can do once you're at a certain, the rules are meant to be broken. But,
well, sure, and you're totally right, like at a certain level, but that's the thing that's so great is every single one of these people is at that level.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. Aside from Josie and the Pussycats, I don't know a more iconic role for Parker Posey than this movie. This is like kind of what put her on the map, and it is the breakdown, the multiple breakdowns about the Busy Bee.
The braces, I never realized he had them too. They both have them.
It's
and
awful.
the Starbucks, because that's where you can tell that's the improvise, where she's like, we met at a Starbucks, or he says we met at a Starbucks, and she was like, well, we were at separate Starbucks
across the street.
And then that whole thing is improvised, and it's so stupid, because that's another thing, is how colossally stupid it is.
Yeah.
And so this goes to a type of comedy that I like to call dumb comedy for smart people.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's dumb. It's very stupid. But because that's another thing about it is what little of a story there is, none of it's on the page. The story is all between the lines. Like, this isn't about the narrative. This is not about Winky winning.
No, definitely not. Definitely not, to the point where yesterday Will and I were watching this and I was like, we were watching and it was one of the ones with Christopher Guest, because he plays Harlan Pepper, the one with the bloodhound. And we were watching and I was like, he's the one that wins, isn't he?
I thought he was too. I had that. Yep.
Yeah, I weirdly thought I remembered it being him that won. And then I was like, no, he wins the group, obviously. But it was to that point where I couldn't even remember who won, because that's not the point. Yeah, that's 100% not the point of it. And that's what makes this movie so insanely good.
It is an exercise in character, like in just playing characters, and they're all so funny in their own way, and they're all doing, it's not even they're all doing different things, but it's like, okay, John Michael Higgins, I watched this with my brother last night, and he was hysterical at several points, but it was primarily Fred Willard and John Michael Higgins that was slaying him. And there's bits that I just never got before, like at the beginning where he's like harassing the butcher. And he just asks for the log of pepperoni. He goes, I just want to hold it in my hands.
Yeah.
Because he's performing the entire time, even for Michael McKean. He's like performing a version of himself.
Of course.
And it's so funny. And it's so offensive.
It's so offensive. But the thing about it that keeps it from being actually offensive is that John Michael Higgins commits to it so hard in a way that he feels like a real person.
But there's also, it's the thing that I've talked about, where it's like, there are gay people like this.
100%.
It's like they're 100% performing, even within safe spaces. It's like, why are you playing the role of a gay person?
I think one of my favorite moments in their story is when they're packing to leave for the dog show.
Kimonos.
And he's like, you have packed 7 kimonos. And he goes, we're going to be there for less than 48 hours. And he goes, well, so I need another one. And they're just like, so ridiculous. Like, how many kimonos can you wear in 48 hours? And he's also the one showing the dog. So he has to have like an outfit to show that, to like walk the dog in. And it's just, I don't know. That part, for whatever reason, slayed me last night.
The one that took Andrew all the way out, like bent at the waist, laughing, he was standing in the kitchen, was after Jennifer Coolidge gives Jane Lynch the makeover, which I cannot decide if it were the better idea to never show us the makeup.
I think it probably is. I think it probably is better not to see it, because they cut to her and I was like, I remember the makeup being worse. And then they went through the whole spiel and I was like, I guess that's why I remember it being worse.
It's
is because it doesn't I was just imagining it. It doesn't actually happen.
Because I remembered it too. And then it's not there. And so, but anyways, when, I already forgot their name, the gay couple, when they're watching on TV and he says she looks like a cocktail waitress on an oil rig.
Yes.
That took Andrew all the way out. Like,
it took me out too. I laughed so hard last night. It's such a descriptor and it's so mean.
It paints such a picture. I know you are mixed with Jennifer Coolidge, but this is probably...
No, I love her in this.
One of the best uses of her, when they're at that stupid party and she has that tacky dress on with the diamond bra. Like...
And all of her makeup is frosty. First of all, this movie, American Pie and Legally Blonde, and like sometimes Cinderella Story, those are the movies that Jennifer Coolidge... that I love Jennifer Coolidge in. But this movie, for some reason, because she's so daffy and she's supposed to be like an Anna Nicole Smith, and she is literally chewing gum the entire time. When she's drinking champagne, when she's eating food at the stadium, every single shot, she is chewing gum, and it is the best character tick I have ever seen.
Well, and because this goes back to my whole, like, I was like, this movie's sad, where it's like at the end of the movie when they're talking about their magazine, American Bitch, she's miserable. It's like The Graduate.
It is kind of like The Graduate.
It is so tense, and it is so uncomfortable. You're like, why? Like, it's one of those where you're like, why are you doing this to us?
Yeah.
Because there's a point at the show where she starts eating food, and then from then on, she's just constantly eating food, like stuffing food in her. Yeah, it's so weird. It's so funny. Well, we didn't finish. We started with Parker Posey, and then what is her? Michael Hitchcock? I don't know him. The Weimaraner, Beatrice. Yeah. Do they put her down?
I don't know. Here's my thing. When I was young, I didn't understand as much their whole deal. As an adult, we're both 34.
Once you have some years.
Once I have some years, they are the villains of this story. They are bad people. Very bad people. First of all, I think they live in New York and they fly to Philadelphia. They are the only ones who fly, which means they put their Weimaraner in the cargo hold to get to this dog show. Weimaraners are one of the most high-strung breeds of dogs. They can't handle shit like that. And this is such a high-strung couple.
It's so mean. And to be able to pull that off as funny, it's like that thing that Niecy Nash says, where it's like, if you insult somebody the right way, they won't know until they got home.
Right. But the problem for me with them actually came when Parker Posey had lost the busy bee and she went back to the hotel and she starts screaming at the Hispanic,
the maid,
the cleaning woman, to show her papers. And I was like, oh my God, because it was the type of thing that in the year 2000, for me, it was easier to like laugh off and be like, oh my God, what kind of person, obviously. But in the year 2020, it hits way different. I was like taken aback in a way that I have never been watching this movie before.
Both performances are so unhinged and they so gradually unhinge. Like, because when that fucking hilarious scene with Jane Lynch where she comes over to him, I guess his name is Jerry. No, that's Hamilton, where she comes over to Hamilton, and I suppose she's menacing him. What is? Yeah. I don't know what's actually accomplished in that scene.
That leans into the sadness of it, where she just is like, I've won this the last 2 years. I am an important person and better than you, and like none of these people is better than anybody.
But no, it actually isn't that scene. It's when she goes back to get the busy bee when they're freaking out, and he just like grabs the dog by the face and is screaming in the dog's face, and he goes, don't you look at those, don't you look at me. And it's just like the poor dog, like I just imagine their owner being like, oh, we're not gonna do that again, are we?
I like leaned over to Will and I was like, oh my God, I hope that dog's okay. And then I was like, oh, that dog is so dead. But I hope it was okay after this movie.
I think they put her down. Like, I think that they blame her for their relationship issues.
Oh, like within the universe, you think they put her down? I was like, nobody put that dog down after the movie.
No. That's why I was like, because of that last scene where they're at the psychiatrist with the pug.
The pug, yeah.
It's just like, that is bleak.
Yeah, super bleak.
I think Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara are doing the most accessible bit.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
They're from here.
Fern City.
Yeah, it's like spitting distance from your house.
Yeah. Well, because I was looking at the houses and I was like, this is Florida, right? I was like, this has to be like Orlando. And Will was like, well, it's Fern City. And I was like, but that's like right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, it's right here.
It's between Altamont and Maitland.
Yeah, it's right. It's like, yes, if I drove the other way to work. Yeah.
And that's another thing, because it's like Orlando has like boomed in the past 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's like this is central. I don't know. Yeah, it's so funny. And it's like, obviously I get the whole like that she was a slut and had all the boyfriends, blah, blah, blah. And that's one of the more showier jokes and plots.
Yeah.
But the one, and they even make a comment about it in the movie, but the one I never got until now is that they are driving from Central Florida to Pennsylvania and they stop in Akron, Ohio.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's not on the way.
It's not on the way. And I will say, to bring this a little bit more around to Fred Willard, the one that I noticed last night for the first time ever is that when she is showing Winky in the category,
he says she looks familiar.
Not for Best in Show, Fred Willard literally goes, hey, that handler looks real familiar. Uh-huh. And I was like, fuck me. She definitely had sex with Fred Willard at some point in the past, because it's every man they come in contact with.
And just that dinner with, because who's the guy?
It's the dad from 10 Things I Hate About You.
Right.
And he does the makeover in The Princess Diaries.
Right. Okay.
You're like, no, I'm getting there.
He was...
Larry Miller is his name.
That scene at the dinner is so... Oh, God. Because his poor wife, like...
Well, and he is a hostage negotiator, like someone that talks people down from the ledge. He goes, they always jump. And I was like, they're not supposed to.
That's an industry secret. And he talked about the one jumping, getting his head caught in the gargoyle. It pops off.
Awful.
While they're eating. It just, yeah. Oh, my God. And like the Eugene Levy having 2 left feet, like...
Yeah,
that's such a weird, absurdist bit in the middle of this very, very dry, like, I don't know. It's so funny. It's so weird. You're right. Fred Willard was the whole reason why we were doing this. And it's just like...
But he just is like, as amazing as he is, he's somehow the least of the amazing parts in this movie. It's like wild how somebody who's as great as Fred Willard is like, could not be the greatest part of a movie.
It's also just so depressing because him and, is it Trevor Beckwith, the other co-host?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Trevor hates him so much.
Well, and it's also, you don't find out until he makes the joke about the dog's testicles.
No, it's the proctologist.
That they have done this before.
And he's like, yes, I remember you said that last year.
That is the part that you just are like, oh God, no, this is their lives. This is what they do.
Like Ed Begley Jr. is like living for this moment. Like this is his time to shine.
When they take him into the supply closet and he's like, for your little dogs, we use like this cleaner, but sometimes you get a big old mess and we need this one. And one time we had a rock band and boy, it was like they didn't know there was a toilet in the room.
But he says it so straightforward. And
so
he's like,
casually.
I don't know that I would have chosen to barbecue a goat. And he's like, so after that one, we get imprints, like credit card imprints.
I mean, it's insane. The level of comedic talent in this movie is, I feel, unparalleled.
Well, and like I mentioned earlier, it really just is one of those perfect storm where it's like the timing of it was so perfect. Because as you mentioned before, there were ones before it and there were ones after it. But this is the only one that I would say really went mainstream.
Yeah.
If you can call.
Well, obviously Spinal Tap was like the first mockumentary type of thing to go quote unquote mainstream, but like all of Christopher Guest's movies. That
one I think is a little bit more infamous though.
It is infamous, but that's the other thing about Christopher Guest is all of his movies are like cult movies. Mm-hmm. Like Christopher Guest movies aren't something that like you're like the random dude at the gym is gonna be like, oh my God, yeah, I love Waiting for Guffman, you know?
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think, was there anything else really that you wanted to touch on or?
I could deal with watching some more Parker Posey movies soon.
I love Catherine
I was having a great time. Her knee, oh my God. Will, at one point, she had already done it like 3 times, and then she was, after Winky wins, she was like walking across the thing, and he like lost it. He was like, her fucking knee! And she just is like wobbling with one leg across the thing.
And her hairpiece, that like...
Yeah.
That 2000s, because they all did it. Britney Spears, Denise Richards. Yep. I remember that like pulled back and then explosion of curls. Like, man, I'm going to say something strange, but I stand by it. I'm glad that this was made and released in a pre 9/11 world.
Oh God, yes.
It's one of the relics, one of the few things that just edged out, you know?
Yeah.
I almost suggested watching Waiting for Guffman because I have seen it once and I just didn't really. I think I was still a teenager, so I think I was still maybe a little bit too young.
Yeah.
But
well, that's one of the other things too, is like I don't feel super confident talking about Christopher Guest's career because I have seen Spinal Tap and this and The Princess Bride, which he only acts in, and like he's in A Few Good Men as a very small role. I saw
A Mighty Wind, and for your consideration, my mom. According to my mom, A Mighty Wind is hilarious. I don't think I laughed once.
I mean, I believe it, but it just she grew up during that folk music,
with bluegrass and stuff. Yeah. It's like, yeah. I think that for your consideration, that one I remember just being flat out like sad, like weird.
Well, maybe we'll do them all. We'll do a Christopher Guest series.
All I really remember is Catherine O'Hara with the botched surgery.
Oh no!
But. It is wild that like Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara have just been this like standard, this staple, this sort of like Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz for our whole life. You know,
well, I was gonna say even well before this, there's like old photos of them. I want to say definitely in the 70s for sure, but like the hair could date it as long ago as the late 60s, where they're doing like improv work together.
Mm-hmm.
They've been together forever. It's wild. I love it.
This movie costs $10 million to make. That's too much.
Well, it does feel like too much, but it's also so little.
It is so little, but it's...
Because they filmed in so many locations. It's like so many locations. All right. Well, as always, you can follow us on Twitter @SoI'mWatching or Instagram @SoI'mWatchingThisShow. We also have a website, soimwatching.com, which links out to everything, including the novel that we wrote, which was mentioned at the top of the show. It's called Fairy Tale, and it's available on Amazon. And then other than that, you can rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen. And that's it for us. Bye.